Welcome to the Upland Nation podcast. I'm Scott Linden, your host, on an adventure down the trail and up the road and out into the field. All sorts of great stuff in store for you this week. How do they get Gun Dog magazine out the door? We'll take a peek behind the curtain with Cali Parmly, the editor-in-chief. She'll share some thoughts on that, of course, and how it works, and also we'll talk hunting and gun dogs. Of course we will. That's what it's all about here. If it's not gun dogs and hunting, then it's birds and habitat and maybe some shooting as well. This week we'll also share your thoughts on how often and why you should feed your dog. Also, some etiquette questions for your public access hunts. You're traveling, how to get along. Got some great reactions last week. Gonna talk a little bit more about some of those things. So keep it tuned right here to the Upland Nation podcast. Hey, do me a favor. Do your fellow hunters a favor at the same time. Let's spread the word about the Upland Nation podcast. Here's what I'm going to do. I've been loath to do this. I know a lot of folks have done it for a long time and just want to show my appreciation. Do me a favor and write a review or a rating at Apple Podcasts for the Upland Nation podcast. If you do that, we'll be monitoring that stuff, and one of you will pick at random and give away a Yeti Rambler. You know, those really nice, heavy. I'm looking at mine right now. It's a gigantic version of it, but it's, it keeps my coffee warm for 3 hours. You want a Yeti Rambler? Leave a rating or a review at Apple Podcasts. Thank you very much. And thank you all for wishing Flick his 4-year-old whelp day recently. I cannot believe that, how time flies. I'll never forget his first hunt. We were on BLM land in New Mexico. He was about 5 months old, and man, he was a big runner then. He's tightened his range a little bit since, luckily. And we got it on camera. Yeah, you saw it on Wing Shooting USA. His first point was on a steer. Well, we're still working on some of that, back to tethered birds and working on that wing shot and fall thing. It was wonderful last time. Hopefully we're on the right track there. Maybe you're doing the same thing. I know you're doing a lot of things with your dog. I see it every day on Facebook. One of the questions I asked recently got some really interesting responses. And as you know, I'm big on this stuff. When and why to feed your dog. We won't get into the brand debate or the grain-free versus some sort of grain debate. I asked, do you feed once a day or twice a day, and do you change that during the season? Roger Hess started off the discussion with some quite interesting and thought-provoking observations. He says dry food takes a minimum of 12 hours to break down, leave the stomach, and enter the colon. And, we've seen research on that as well. Multiple small amounts better than one big meal. His takeaway, and I buy this completely, dog's energy today came from the food you fed yesterday. Yeah, absolutely true. Pat Corey says, I don't feed no ugly dog. Well, I guess they feed themselves. That means they're not only ugly, but smart, right, Pat? Ryan Schmidt says, once a day, all year, plenty of science behind it. Anything more is to make the person feel good. Jake McCracken says, once daily, all year round, no food right before a hunt. The breed I own is prone to stomach twisting, so eating before a hunt is a bad idea. Well, that was the loaded part of that question I asked. I'm big on that for a lot of reasons. Someday maybe I'll even write about it. Let's see. Tyler Dunham says once a day, year-round. Just up the feed a little on hunting trips, early evening. Feed about an hour after exercise is finished for the day. lots of folks suggesting that. Most of the veterinarians will be on that as well, at least an hour, maybe even longer. My good friend George Cummins says twice a day throughout the year, but in hunting season, depends a little bit on what the legal start time. For example, the first week in South Dakota used to be noon. If your dog can go that long without food, he's not going to have much left in the tank when he does start hunting. If we start at daylight, George says, he'll give a fresh brown egg 2 hours before the hunt. And I've talked a little bit about that in the past. An egg white is mainly protein and an egg yolk is mainly fat. So depending on what you're looking for there, it all works, and it all works pretty darn well. Okay, well, thank you for all of that. Cali Parmly is waiting patiently on the line. We'll get to her in just a moment, talk about Gun Dog Magazine. Have you seen it lately? Man, you need to get a good look at it. But anyway, we'll talk more about the motivation behind the new page design and everything else going on there right after a couple quick messages. Sage and Breaker, gun care products crafted at the highest caliber. Go to sageandbreaker.com/blogs, product videos. You'll learn something. I can almost guarantee it. sageandbreaker.com/blogs/product videos. There's something for everybody there. And if you own a rifle or handgun, there's also great stuff there as well. Learn something, pick up the great products. It's all at sageandbreaker.com. And if you're looking for a place to go, they got plenty of room for you, and they'd love to have you in Huron, South Dakota. We call it the Ringneck Nation because they have more pheasants than people. You've seen them on my show a number of times, but the thing is, I go there even when I'm not making a TV show. Learn more about them at hunthuronsd.com. Get yourself a free information packet. Learn about all the public access ground out there, over 140,000 acres. You can just walk right on. You'll find out more about the Ringneck Festival and the Bird Dog Challenge if you're up for those sort of things as well. It's a good time, whether you're competitive or not. Learn about it all at hunthuronsd.com. So looking forward to having her with us. It's been a while since she took over as the editor-in-chief at Gun Dog Magazine. And I've been intrigued with what she's done since then, having been in the world of publishing myself. So without further ado, let's bring on Cali Parmly. Cali, welcome to the Upland Nation podcast.
Hi, Scott. How are you?
I am.
Thanks for having me.
Finer than frog hair, as they say. The fires are, the smoke is blowing in the other direction, so we're happy out here in wildfire country. How about yourself?
I'm good, thank you. I appreciate it. I live in Utah now, so I understand wildfire country, that's for sure.
Yeah, you'll get your share of it, believe me, if you haven't already. But you've been there a while. You moved from where to Utah?
So I lived in Peoria, Illinois. That's where our magazines were based out of.
Yeah, well, you made a good move, and
yeah,
and we've talked about hunting in that country, and we'll talk a little bit more about that maybe later in the podcast. But for now, why don't you give us a quick kind of backstory on Cali Parmly?
Sure. So I started my career in the hunting industry right out of college. I got lucky and got a job at a nonprofit called the U.S. Sportsmen's Alliance, which they go by just the Sportsmen's Alliance now. And I started out there in their youth program and teaching kids how to get into the outdoors. But really my background was in journalism and marketing and things of that sort. And so I got moved over to their communications side of things. And that's where I really got my start and really got my leg in the door because I knew I wanted to be an editor of a magazine at some point. I didn't know when I went to college that would be of a hunting magazine, but that's how it kind of happened. And so worked for a few years in the Sportsmen's Alliance, and then I applied for a job as the associate editor of Peterson's Hunting Magazine. And I was able to land that job, and that's what took me to Peoria, and that has really been the stepping stone to me in the magazine world.
Oh, I bet. Great experiences, both of those. Worked with the USSA a lot back in the day. Mm-hmm. I won't bore you with that. And then Peterson's, of course, legendary. You ever get out to LA and see the car museum while you were there?
No, the LA that office was
Oh.
long gone before I got on board there. But
Yeah.
yeah, I worked for Peterson's for a good 4 years as the associate editor and then managing editor. And then, worked in the big game world for all that time. And then the opening, Rick was retiring from Gundog. And so in the meantime, through all those years, I had become an upland hunter. And so they said, hey, would you be interested in taking over Gundog since you're the upland hunter in our company? And I said, yeah, sure. So
Love it.
worked out.
All right. So here's somebody who came to it a little later in life, like many of us. What pushed you over the edge from the big game world into the bird dog and bird hunting world?
Well, that's funny. You're right. I did not get into hunting until in my 20s. And that was not because hunting was weird. I grew up in a very rural community. I grew up in the country. I grew up horseback riding and camping. And my grandpa actually raised English setters. He was a big field trial guy. And but I just didn't do hunting just because I was into sports and everything. But when I got the job at the Sportsman's Alliance, I remember them asking me, like, you're okay with hunting, right? And I just said, yeah, it's not. I came from a school where kids had their guns mounted in their trucks in the back windows, So I was like, yeah, that doesn't bother me at all. And so anyways, I grew up, I had a mentor at the U.S. Sportsman's Alliance he took me turkey hunting and got me hooked. And then I had gotten a lab, not as a hunting dog, just as, just a house dog. And I had a couple mentors who said, bring him out to the field with us one day. We're going to do some bird dog training. And I was just like, no, he's obedience trained. He's never even seen a bird, and they're like, nope, bring him. And my lab actually that day, it just clicked with him and he flushed like 3 birds, retrieved 3 birds. And I just remember thinking like, it would be awful of me not to bring out this natural instinct in him and train him. And so I read a bunch of books. I watched a bunch of YouTube videos. I had some mentors and I trained him to be an upland dog with me. And I always like to credit Lincoln, my lab, for really making me an upland hunter because he's really what got me passionate about the sport. And I mean, you're a bird guy, you understand. So
yeah, your story is almost my story. That's although it started with a pointing breed instead, but that's exactly what I said. He hit a point, a pheasant flew out from under him, and I said, if he's going to do that, I guess I better learn how to shoot.
That's right. So
wow.
That's what I like to say is Lincoln he really made me want to pursue upland hunting because that connection between you and your dog is something special. And so I was lucky and I had some people show me the ways and show me how to upland hunt and where to upland hunt and really got me hooked. And just my trips with Lincoln, and I really got into the DIY aspect. I got into the backcountry aspect of it. So that coupled with my big game experience, because I really like backpack hunting and going off the grid. And so it really just all worked out in itself. And over the years, I really, that's what I enjoy doing all fall. So.
You mentioned mentors of one degree or another, folks who have helped you, and I think I knew that first one when I was working with USSA, but there are many good ones over there. But what is the challenge with a new hunter at any age level, at any level, in any aspect of the hunting world? What is the challenge with finding mentors? And you know what I mean, because we both get those kind of comments on Facebook. Yeah, they all ought to learn it for themselves, just like I did. God damn it.
I did. Yeah.
I
get it. And
go ahead.
I hate to interrupt you, but it's just, I see it. I think you and I were fortunate. We're in the hunting industry and we have people who can tell us exactly what we need and maybe even let us borrow gear. And so I can understand why the average Joe who's not in the hunting industry and maybe only has a friend's dad who hunts, we've all spent money on this expensive gear and it can be a little daunting to, what do you need? What shotgun do I need? What ammo do I need? Do I need a vest? Do I need a dog? Do I need this? So I can understand why it's hard to get into hunting because you really need that person who is willing to share things with you, share their knowledge, share their gear, maybe even share their hunting spots. And, that's a whole different topic of conversation. And so I can understand why it's hard for people to get into hunting. But I've also found that people who are passionate about hunting actually enjoy sharing their knowledge with people. I've never had a problem having people who help me learn to hunt back in the day. And even today, I feel like I enjoy taking people hunting. When I have friends say to me, I'd like to do that, I'm like, okay, let's do it. If you want to do it, we'll do it. It's almost more enjoyable to me, actually. It's more enjoyable for me to see someone else shoot a bird than for me to shoot a bird. It's like we've done it. We've been there, done that. Now let's spread our knowledge to everybody else.
It's absolutely true. We do arrive at that point, or most of us do, or many of us do. I shouldn't say it that way. And I'll never forget the first conversation I had with a person who was the president of a big gun company at the time. And I asked the same question, what do you love most about bird hunting? And he said, teaching other people how to do it.
Yeah, honestly. I got invited this year to do a women's hunt with completely women who have never hunted before, or a bird hunt completely, that barely even fired a shotgun more than a couple rounds of clays. And I was asking about, okay, like, am I going to be guiding them? Am I using my dogs? And I said, how many hunters? And they said 5. And I said, well, does that 5 include me? And they said, yes. And I said, well, then take it down to 4, because I don't care about shooting. This is about them. This is about them learning, and I don't need to kill a bird. So it's more fun for me to watch my dogs work and other people see, how the dogs work and how bird hunting works, and them light up about it. So,
well, it's funny. We share a lot of other things besides, and I'm not going to go into detail on that, but you at one point were spending some time in a classroom, and so was I, not as a student, but as a teacher. And I think that comes out. I think it's part of our DNA, but there are other people out there who don't have that, and that's fine. This is America. You can be a butthead if you want to be. But how do we, as experienced, slightly knowledgeable, motivated hunters, how do we find or help somebody most who's just starting out? What's the key to finding that person, and then what's the thing we should do most with that person?
I think you should actually take them hunting. I don't think telling them, just sharing your knowledge, sitting down at a table and sharing your knowledge is going to help, because I think 9 times out of 10 you may share that knowledge with them, but they're not actually going to go and do it, because being out there with them and showing them the ropes and actually getting them success is really what's going to hook them. Because imagine sending them out there and they walk 7 miles and they don't even see a bird. That's not going to bring people back to the sport. That's not going to make them want to keep doing it. You need to get them out there, have them some success, and then teach them, here's where to look for birds, here's what I'm looking for, here's how to find public land spots, here's how to talk to landowners, and getting them out there and actually showing them the ropes and getting them on birds is what's really going to keep them into this sport. I can't agree more, although I will differ on one point right after this. Cali Parmly is the editor-in-chief at Gundog Magazine. You're listening to the Upland Nation podcast. I'm Scott Linden, chief cook and bottle washer on this end. Cali, I did a video on this for the Shooting Sports Foundation, and the only thing I would add to your suggestion is manage expectations in a way so that every hunting trip with a newbie is a success in one regard or another. It could be the fact that, hey, we didn't get shot. No, hey, we didn't get rained on. Hey, we had a great field lunch, whatever it is. What are some of those other things that we might do that can manage a new hunter's expectations? Absolutely. That's a really good point, because it's, every time I go hunting, I don't get into birds necessarily. So
no, you're going to my spots or what?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I would say make it as enjoyable as possible. Do an elaborate tailgate lunch, or take them. I personally love going to those little towns in the middle of nowhere, hunting in the morning, and then going getting, hot, greasy breakfast at 10 in the morning in some, no-name town. I always think that's fun. And, just make it a whole experience. Make it cool and something to remember, and try to, again, like you said, manage expectations. Try to, if it looks like it's going to rain and thunderstorm that day and be cold, maybe decide on another day.
Yeah.
Something where it's not going to be completely miserable for them, but more memorable and fun, where they look back and they're like, hey, that was really fun. Thanks for taking me on that.
Okay, I got another question, but first I got to write that down. My next bluegrass band is going to be named Hot Greasy Breakfast.
There you go.
And we have that spot, actually, and a lot of you out there listening to me have been to that spot with me for either the milkshake or the cheeseburger, so you know what I'm talking about. At least in your mind you have. I do want to touch on the magazine because, I've written for the magazine. I went back and I think I've written for Gundog Magazine for 6 or 7 years now, and sure enjoyed working with your predecessor and enjoy working with you, especially that last beer assignment, by the way. I'm still recovering.
Check out Gundog Mag for that one.
Yes.
Gundogmag.com.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, let's remember that. In fact, if you want to know anything about the magazine, that's the right way to start it. Gundogmag.com. But if you are a reader, you've noticed in the last few months, it's looking different. And I'm going to say it's looking freaking-tacular. But do you tell us what you did there and then tell me why?
So we just recognized that Gundog this needed a redesign is kind of what we decided on it. We wanted to the new wave of magazines, as you'll know, is the big, thick, beautiful photography that hits you in the face on the newsstands. You open up the pages and you see 2-page spread photos coupled with excellent editorial content. And that's just what we decided the way Gundog was going. And we knew this was the right magazine to do it because who doesn't love seeing dogs, huge photos of dogs all over the place, all over the magazine. And so when I took over, we started small by just doing a redesign with the old stock and everything in the magazine. And then we knew we'd wait a year and we'd plan and we'd come up with, our team would work together to come up with a new design and new concept. And we coupled that with a new website. And so we waited a whole year and we just launched it this past January, the new wave of the magazine, which, as you're talking about, it's 120 pages, perfect bound. It's that coffee table type magazine that you don't want to throw away, that you give to people. You're like, have you seen the new Gundog? It's one of those. And what's cool about it is we didn't just stick to print. We decided that it needed to go on the web and social media as well. And so actually just yesterday, this is a great timing for this podcast, we launched the new website. And so the new website features, unique editorial content. It features Gundog training videos specific to our brand. Features recipes and everything you can think of. And there's actually, it's kind of cool because we've done this thing where if you subscribe to the magazine, you get premium access to gundogmag.com. And that means you get access to hundreds of dog training videos that you normally wouldn't have access to from all the trainers who write for us, the people who you really want to hear from. And so it's been really exciting and cool, and we're super, super pumped about it.
Well, and I don't blame you, and what a great idea. There got to be some challenges, though, in that, and I can think of several already. The first is finding great photos, and the second is literally getting that thing out the door. I know you just put one to bed, and I've been there and done that. For 5 years, I was a publisher, so I know that there are unique challenges. But let's talk about the ones that we see as readers. Describe, what do you look for when it comes to great photography, for example?
We're looking for, guys who are out there capturing the dogs do what they, and, their natural element. And, we're really, no more, we don't, no cell phone photos or anything. We're looking for the guys who are really using high-end cameras and just really capturing the beauty of the dogs doing what they do naturally, out in the field, whether that be pointers or retrievers. And, in this day and age, we have found so many talented photographers. And what's funny, and I know this is so weird to say, but where we found a lot of it from is Instagram.
Wow.
They post a ton of photos now and they tag Gundog, and you can tell they're professionals and they care about their art. And, of course, we've got our typical, our professionals who we've used for years. We've got John Hafner and Brian Grossenbacher and Lee Chose, Mark Atwater, Jerry Impervento. We've got a ton of those guys who we still work with, but I love scrolling Instagram and finding new guys as well. And it has really shaped the magazine.
Oh, I bet.
It's funny. It's just even guys who are just average Joe, they're just regular hunters like you or I, and they're just artsy. And a perfect example is Seth Bynum. He's a veterinarian out of Idaho, and he's a hardcore hunter, and he's just really good behind a camera. And so it's been really fun finding new talent for the magazine during this whole new wave of everything.
You know, and of course, as I'm a big believer in the words that go along with the pictures, because I like to think I do that okay. But what about let's take the magazine as a whole. Does the magazine tell a story every issue?
Yeah, it does. So what I like about Gundog is when I first took over, I didn't want to take away from what Gundog has always traditionally been, which is how to train your dog. You know, DIY training from the experts. They're giving you their expert tips that they would use themselves in their own kennels. So I did not want to go away from that. And so all of our columns, or all of our departments, we like to call them, are still that. They're, you know, point, flush, retrieve, training and behavior. They're your guys like Tom Dawkin, Jerry Cassio. We brought on Ronnie Smith and Susanna Love this year, and they are telling you what they do in their own kennels. They're telling you how to train your dog. But then our feature stories, I also wanted to bring to the magazine, not just dog training, but also upland hunting in general. I wanted to make sure that we covered all aspects of our sport, and you know, yeah, we're all dog, you know, lovers, and we love our dogs and what they have to do with bird hunting, but we are also upland hunters. And so I wanted to make sure that we brought that world into the magazine. And that's really what you'll see a lot of our feature stories about. They'll be about where to go, how to go, here's the gear you need, you know, all the way from public land hunting down in Georgia all the way out to the Oregon coast, you know. So it's just like, that's what I've really loved, is bringing that aspect of it to as well, to couple it with the dog training advice.
We're just getting warmed up here. That's Cali Parmly, the editor-in-chief of Gundog Magazine. I'm Scott Linden. You're listening to the Upland Nation podcast. You alluded to something, and and this is a point of contention with a lot of people, and you get it and I get it, whether it's in our world or it's in the other world I function in, which is fly fishing. People have a real problem with us spilling the beans on places to go. How do you cope with that? I mean, you probably get an irate email every once in a while that says, that's my favorite spot, and now everybody's going to go there.
Oh, yeah, we definitely get that. We get we tagged some small town in Montana where we had gotten a photo from, and everyone told us we were hot spotting.
Yeah.
You know, it's such a touchy topic. I can understand both sides of the equation. I can understand that these guys are saying, don't tell our spot. You know, we've found these spots, don't tell them. I can understand that. But on my side of things is also, it is no secret that we are in a shortage of hunters in this new day and age. And if we don't help people become upland hunters, then our sport is going to go by the wayside. And I'm not saying you need to drop GPS locations to exact spots, but I'm also okay with helping a hunter or a friend. My buddy here in Utah, he and I will go out. Maybe we don't get to hunt with each other one day, and I'll go out and I'll flush a bird, and I say, just flush the bird here, you know, and the next day he'll tell me where he flushed a bird. And, you know, it's just, I think the knowledge then comes when you start teaching people. You also teach them about overhunting and overpressurizing a spot. And, you know, I think we have to encompass everything that has to do with hunting, and teach these newbies all about this, and, you know, tell them, hey, just because we give you this spot doesn't mean, one, the birds are going to be there, and two, that you should go there. But you should look at that terrain. You should see what they're eating. You should, you know, see what's around there and why they're in that particular spot, and then go for yourself. You know, I like to tell people, okay, if you don't want to give an exact GPS location, which I totally understand, then at least say, go close to here, go to that mountain range, go to this spot and look for this type of feed and cover. Does that make sense?
Completely and totally, and that's exactly what I've evolved to, if you will. It is the right, you know, in my estimation, the right way to keep people hunting, ensure that they have some initial success, which is critical, and then get them to learn more about this whole thing in a way that will ultimately benefit the habitat and the sport. So
for sure.
We're simpatico on that, Cali. I'm going to give you 90 seconds to have a sip of water, maybe clear your throat. I know I need to do that. You all hang on a second. We're going to talk more with Cali Parmly at Gun Dog Magazine. We're getting into the deeper stuff. So, Cali, your next assignment over the break is summarize in 100 words or less what you love most about bird hunting. In the meanwhile, everybody else, listen up. The Upland Nation podcast is brought to you by Happy Jack. Learn more about all their products at happyjackinc.com. Just had a great note from Joe Exum, second generation owner, and Manning Exum, his son, now at the reins there, talking about all the important stuff. Conditioning, very important. We know how important it is to road our dogs and get them in good shape for the season. But what about their feet? I'm a big believer. You'll be reading and learning more about that in a video very soon. But in the meanwhile, take a look at happyjackinc.com and their product called Pad Coat, K-O-T-E. I know, clever, right? Well, it does what I think is really important. It makes those pad leathers supple. Not moist per se, but if the comparison is compare a dry brittle leaf with a green leaf, crumple one up in each hand. What do you want your dog's pads to do when they roll over that gravel or the rocks or whatever? You want them to conform and adapt. Suppleness is one of the key solutions to that problem. Pad Coat at happyjackinc.com is a way to do it. And then welcome to one of our new sponsors, Roughland Performance Kennels. They've got a slant back version for SUVs. You know, maximize the room for your dog and no wasted storage space. Then what I like most about mine is the available second door. You can put it on the side or the back so you can reach in from either direction. You can reconfigure the back of your truck in a way that might make a little bit more sense for you and your dog and your gear and that trip. Learn more about all the colors, all the accessories, and the technology, same as is used in race cars. It's all at roughlandkennels.com. Cali Parmly, Gun Dog Magazine, editor-in-chief. Are you still there?
I'm here.
Good. All right. Thank you for paying attention. Appreciate that. You had an assignment over the break, and I could bore you all day with my reasoning, but you tell me what it is about bird hunting that just gets you all squishy inside.
You know what's funny is my friends always say, even like when we're out just not even bird hunting, every time I hear the flush of a bird, I turn like I'm my own bird dog, and they're like, your eyes just come alive. I just laugh about it, and I'm just, I think what I love about bird hunting is just being out there in the untouched wild and just you and your dogs. And, like this year over my birthday, I took my lab and my young setter out, and 7 miles I hiked and I flushed 2 birds, and I didn't care. I didn't care at all because it was just being out there. It was being out there and doing it and being with them and something I enjoy. And, I'm going to go hiking anyways. And so, why not have a gun in my hand while I'm doing it? And so it's just being out there in the solitude and in the wild with the 2 creatures that I love the most. And there's just something special about that.
Yeah, amen to that. It's funny. I joke about it, and I stole this from somebody smarter than me, but he said, the places you guys go, you'd look silly just walking around, but put a gun in your hands and all of a sudden it's okay.
Yep. It's just so funny. It's something special about it.
You straddle the fence here. You have a Labrador and now you have a pointing breed. What pushed you to that? And tell me more about why you went to the setter side.
Well, I'll be honest and say that part of it was, 1, my lab's getting older. He's 7 now. He'll be 8 this fall. And 2, I felt as the editor of Gun Dog, I really needed to have the experience of training a pointing breed. I read it, I edit it, I read about it, I tell people about it, but I didn't have my own pointing breed. And so that was really important to me as soon as I took over. And then, of course, naturally, like I said, my grandpa raised and bred setters. And so that was a pretty easy decision for me because I already knew the breed. I grew up with them. And so it was important to me to kind of pay an homage to my grandpa. And took some recommendations from people and found Northwoods Bird Dogs and put my name down for a litter. Got one a year later. So his name's Jones, and he just turned 1 on June 5th. So
All
it's
right.
been fun watching him come alive.
I bet. And why the name?
Well, if you really want to know, it's because Indiana Jones is one of my favorite characters. So
Love
he
it.
was going to go on a bunch of adventures with me. So naturally, his name was Jones.
Oh, I love that. So tell me, in the first year, what has been your biggest challenge training Jones?
Well, let's see. So, you can read as many books and watch as many YouTubes as possible, but doesn't make you an expert trainer. And so biggest challenge is me managing expectations and seeing, on YouTube, you see a bunch of people with their 8-week-old puppy pointing a wing. And, when your dog doesn't do it, you think something's wrong with him. and understanding that dogs mature at their own level and at their own time, and you can do as much as you can to bring out, that in them, and they're just gonna figure it out in their own time. And so what I focused on, I got him, I brought him home around the 1st of August, I think, last year. And I focused on very slow introduction to, I didn't know what age do I introduce birds to him? What age do I introduce gunfire? So I introduced birds very slowly. First I did a wing on a string. Then I did a frozen bird. Then I did a bird with his wings clipped, and, so on and so on. And he loved it, and his birdiness came out right away. And then I moved on to intro to gunfire and did that slow and steady, and he had no problems with that. And then I listened to what Jerry Coulter told me, my breeder. He said, hunt him, just take him hunting with you. So that's what I did. And, but as you know, trying to find wild birds for a young puppy that hold still don't exactly work very well. But it was really neat for me to see his hunt drive come alive. I'll never forget a hunt in January. I took him up to Idaho. I was hunting with some friends, and we got into a huge covey of quail, and that scent hit his nose, and he was no longer just a puppy running with us in the field anymore. His body was compact to the ground, his tail was going like a helicopter, and you could tell his nose was just working that scent like crazy. And he was going, I was following him, he was going nuts. I could tell he was on a bird, and of course wild bird's not going to hold steady, and it must have ran from one bush to the other, and it flushed. And of course natural instincts, I shot it, probably shouldn't have, but he found me that bird. And I'll never forget how ecstatic I was that my little puppy had found me that quail. He may not have pointed it, but he sure did find it. And so that was such a cool experience. And then from there on, I've been fortunate to have friends here who have helped me, let me come out with them to the field, to their training fields, to show me exactly how they work their dogs on birds and the things I can work with on Jones. And since that time, he's found his point, and it just clicked with him. One day we went out, and he was pointing a little bit before. He had definitely pointed, but this one particular day about a month ago, we planted a pigeon for him, and you would have thought he was a 2-year-old dog. He turned on a dime when he hit that scent cone, and tears came to my eyes because I was just like, he's got it. He's figured it out,
I love it.
It's been really neat.
By the way, I'm going to be at that quail spot this fall.
Well, I'll meet you up there then.
Yeah,
huh?
really. Looking forward to it with the guy who breeds my dogs is showing me that country a little bit. That's one of the few places I haven't hunted in the Pacific Northwest, so looking forward to it. Back to the magazine for one thing, and then I want to talk more about the stuff that just made the goose pimples stand up on my arms when you described that dog in the field. What are the most popular types of articles you guys run?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think guys are definitely looking for the how-to articles. I feel like that's what they crave the most, is they're looking for answers to their questions, to their training questions. And then I also feel the other popular ones are destination articles, where to go, how to go, and gear. Everyone loves gear. Everyone's a gear junkie anymore.
Yeah.
And so specifically for the magazine and web, we focus on what answers, what are people questioning. And for the web, we find, people are Googling, top 5 best shotguns for youth, or dog breed information, things of that sort. And then for the magazine that we're finding, they want to know training questions, and they want to know where to go this fall.
Love it. Just like us.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's talk about the hunting thing. Every day crossing your electronic desk are a bazillion ideas for stories or finished articles on hunting and going hunting somewhere. Of all of those, have you put together a bucket list?
Oh, yes and no. I mean, I have a bucket list hunts of, I want to do the birds that a lot of people don't chase. I want to do snowcock. This fall, I plan on backpacking in for ptarmigan here in Utah. I want to do I like to do the hunts where I can get off with my dogs a little bit, camp for many days at a time. But honestly, I love hunting with friends as well. I've got my friends in Montana saying, come up here for the sharptail opener, and my friends, and I think Idaho is probably my favorite state to hunt. It's only 3 hours for me from here, and you can get into numerous species of animals, quail, chukar, huns, everything of the sort. And so if you want bucket list, it's definitely going to be snowcock, maybe even taking my dog to Alaska. I'd love to experience a traditional Georgia quail hunt, things of that sort. I'd love to hunt grouse in Maine. Man, that would be amazing. But other than that, I enjoy every hunt that I partake in, whether I get birds or not.
Listen, all of those are on everybody's list, and man, are you in for a good time, except for that snowcock hunt,
That's more, honestly, that's more like a big game hunt than a bird hunt. So
yeah. I'll never forget talking to a guide, one of the few guides who actually runs those kind of hunts. He says, we ride the horses up to 10,000 feet, then we climb off and we climb another 2,000 feet. And I'm thinking, all right, okay.
You don't really take your dogs. That's a big game. You go and glass for those birds, and you sneak. It's literally like a big game hunt. So it'd still be fun though.
Because you're going out so much, everybody thinks all you do is, go to great places to hunt. We know there's a lot of non-glamorous aspects of publishing and editing because we've been there, and a lot of people have seen, peek behind the curtain a little bit here and there. What is the biggest challenge you face when it comes to publishing the magazine? What is the thing that you wake up in the middle of the night worrying about?
There'll be times when I feel like, with any type, even in the big game world, I felt coming up with new ideas was hard. And hunting has been, I don't want to say the same methods or same techniques for generations, because obviously we found new finagled ways to hunt, but it's still the same concept, and so I always get worried that we're not providing our readers with new and exciting things. And so every year when I plan the magazine a whole year in advance, every issue, people shoot me their ideas, and I'm just like, been there, done that. We've done that. What's a new approach to this? What's something different that we can give to people? And so that's what I worry about the most, is the content and making sure it's new and refreshing for our people to keep them coming back for more.
I'll remember that as a freelance writer working for you once in a while.
There you go.
But you do get to go on a lot of these, and even when you're not writing about it for the magazine or the website gundogmag.com, you're going places. If you were to advise us on some of the things you've learned, some of the gear that you take that maybe we haven't thought about on a hunting trip, what would come to mind?
That's a good question. I prefer, everyone, I have access to all the new gear, and I tend to wear the exact same outfit every single time. I don't know if that's just, me being scared of, whatever, but I would make sure gear wise, stay on top of all the dog food and probiotics that are these manufacturers are really coming out with, because I found that makes a huge difference when you're traveling with a dog. Because as you take, I've got an anxious setter. He has diarrhea almost every time we hit the field. Seems to be a pointing dog breed thing.
Mm-hmm.
I have found I really like the Gunner Kennel food crate. That has been a go-to to keep in the back of my truck. I prefer to camp when I go, because just trying to find a hotel sometimes, paying the extra money for 2 dogs is kind of blah. So find a setup that you like, whether that be a tent, a rooftop tent, whether that be a trailer. I do both. I'll pull a mini trailer that I have, or I'll just set up a tent. Make sure your shotgun is in working order. Make sure it's something that you're comfortable with, and I would bring a backup if you have one. Just things of that sort. Just find the gear that you're comfortable with and stick to it. That's what I like to say.
I used to advise when I was teaching classes in this, I'd tell everybody when you can't catch a fish, go to the fly that you have the most confidence in and use it no matter what. And it sounds like the same idea. You got to feel good about your stuff. By the way, if I recall, I think you might have an A-liner trailer. I still miss mine. I wish I still had it.
I do. I have a little mini A-liner. That's been one of my best purchases.
Yeah.
For both me and the dogs.
Yeah. In fact, we had ours custom built with the dogs in mind, and that worked pretty good. So, I should have
done that.
Well, that's a long story, but it's pretty easy.
I need a bigger bed to fit. I need to get a bigger bed to fit 2 dogs now instead of 1. So.
Yeah, well, that's another story. I'll tell you a quick one. So it was 12 below in northern Nevada, and all the heaters were going. It wasn't enough, and I had 2 dogs at the time, so thank goodness I had a big sleeping bag, because one went to the bottom and one went to the top, and I did pretty well.
Isn't that funny how that works?
Yeah, it does. Well, if you were going to leave us with one thing, I mean, just think about this. You're in the ivory tower from one respect. People look up to you. They look to you for guidance. They look to you for leadership. If you're going to leave a listenership of hardcore, active, avid bird hunters and dog owners, that's us, what would you tell us to close this out?
I tell them, don't be afraid to write the magazine. I get people who write me every day asking questions about, what are you wearing? Where are you hunting? What are you pulling with your trailer? And I'm not afraid to write back. I will answer every single one of them to give you my advice, where I hunt, where I enjoy hunting, and anything that you ask, I'll be happy to answer for you. And I just want to tell everyone that, Gundog is here as your resource for both the dog training world and the upland hunting world. The new magazine format and the new website is made specifically for you as hunters, as hardcore hunters, and, just go out, do what you love, be passionate about it, and know that we have your back.
There you have it. Cali Parmly is the editor-in-chief of Gundog Magazine. You're seeing her work every day at gundogmag.com. And, of course, if you're not already a subscriber, now's a great time to take a look at that. I think you have one waiting in the wings. I'm not sure. But anyway, Cali, great to talk with you. We should do this again sometime. And in the meanwhile, thanks for all your hard work, and thanks for being a part of the Upland Nation podcast.
And thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
That public access advice is coming up right after this from Dr. Tim's Natural Performance Dog Food. You know that stuff in the yard after you feed your dog? Well, about 14 hours after you feed your dog. I mean, most of it is ash. You've probably heard the term. It's not what you think it is, but it's close enough. And it's the stuff you end up scooping and hopefully putting in a appropriate container or a hole in the ground for that matter. There's my ash producer right there. That's Flick. He's critiquing my performance right now, and hopefully he doesn't have a lot of ash in his poop, because Dr. Tim's Performance Dog Food stays to that bare maximum of 8% in most of his formulations. If your dog food has more than 8% ash, well, it's just going to end up in your yard. Working on a video on that right now, but in the meanwhile, learn all about it at DRTIMS. Go to the nutrition column and then read about ash, what it is and why too much ash means too much yard cleanup on a regular basis. Use the code Upland Nation when you're there and you'll get 30% off your first order. It's all at DRTIMS.com. This land is your land. My chance to share with you some of my thoughts on 32 years of finding and hunting on public land all over the 42 states. I just added it up. I was looking at the map. Put a little flag on each one. That's a lot of flags. But anyway, I've learned a lot about getting along in what some people will call flyover country. You know, the right and the left coast will call us that once in a while. And I learned that not simply by going out and recreating, but from being a part of the community to a small degree, kind of a part-time citizen, pushing cattle, doctoring people, dogs, sheep, and horses, hauling beer kegs, yeah, at that place with the cheeseburgers, and bucking hay bales here and there. Even did a gather one fall, didn't fall off the horse. I never expected a quid pro quo. There's none of that involved, and as I traveled down the road, I've been given advice, access, and even a warm bed when there was a no vacancy sign lit up, all because I tried to fit in. You might consider the same thing. If you're driving down the road and there's a truck pulled over, carefully, slowly, so you don't make dust, pull over and ask if they need help. If you're riding shotgun, get the gate. Haul out all your bird guts, feathers, and empty shotgun shells, because that's the last thing somebody needs in a combine or in a cow. The locals will find them. The coyotes won't find all those gut piles. The locals will, and you will be less welcome the next time around. Anyway, I could lecture you forever on those topics, and in fact, I might just do that in a webinar coming up real soon. But in the meanwhile, consider how important it can be to your hunting success in the broadest sense by getting to know the community, the people, and how things work out there. The Upland Nation podcast is brought to you by findbirdhuntingspots.com. In fact, there's a essay in there about this kind of stuff, so check it out. Lots of new material every week to help you find places to hunt, plus train and care for your dog. It's all at findbirdhuntingspots.com. And with that, I'll wish you a fond farewell. Thanks for listening. Thank you, Cali Parmly of Gundog Magazine. Sure enjoyed our talk. Thank you, everybody who contributed to our debate discussion on how often and when to feed, that sort of thing. I would sure appreciate your leaving a rating or a review at Apple Podcasts. And remember, I'm going to pick somebody to take home that Yeti Rambler. So get it in the next few weeks. We talk every day at the Wing Shooting USA and the Upland Nation Facebook pages. Why don't you join the discussion? I'll leave you with this from advice columnist Ann Landers. She says, don't accept your dog's admiration as conclusive evidence that you are wonderful. Thanks for listening. Thank you, Flick, for 4 great years of hunting together. I'm Scott Linden. I'll see you in the field.